This is our fifth and final week talking about how we live love. And it's actually kind of fitting because this weekend, just 2 days ago, a bunch of us were all up in Digby for Jason and Missy's wedding, and it was incredible. And it wasn't just that it was kind of the tiniest church I'd ever been, and probably the most attended wedding I've been to in a long time. The place was packed, literally. People standing in the stairs and in behind and kind of crammed in corners and stuff like that. It was amazing. It was great though, right? Like, I don't know, it may sound funny, but it was amazing. But more than all of those things, I have some very fond memories of Jason and Missy. They were here when I got here. They've been here for a long, long time. And they moved back to Digby months ago now, and I didn't realize how much I missed them until I showed up and met up with Missy, and she burst into tears, and I just kind of came apart, and we hugged each other, and I'm like, wow, it was so amazing to be there. But these two, I've officiated a lot of weddings at this point in my life. I love it. It's one of my favorite ministries because even the bad weddings, they're still great. Like even when everything kind of goes wrong and there's stumbling and people fall down and stuff, it's still great. It's a wonderful ministry. I love officiating. But Jason and Missy they kind of caught me off guard. These two were and continue to be two people that are so very much invested in living love, like few others I know. They demonstrated it while they were a part of Metro. They've continued to demonstrate it even after they moved, and I got them plugged into a church down there, and there's been some back and forth. Immediately, first Sunday out of the gate, they got in there and they began asking what they could do to help these people at the new church. Like they have such a generous spirit, such a loving attitude towards life, and to be there and officiate their wedding, knowing all that I had seen them grow through over the last year, it was an incredible time for me. And I almost started bawling alongside Missy when we were practicing her vows on the night before when we did practice. It's great. Anyway, I'm going to try and see if this works. We keep trying this thing. We are still ironing out kinks. Hold on, this is coming up. It takes a second. I'm going to see if I can actually do this so Heidi can relax. Now I'm going to press Control, which in my life generally means nothing. I'm not in control. I don't know if y'all are thinking that, but this is looking promising. Hold on, it's thinking, it's taking its sweet time. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to happen. Okay, can I just point to you, Heidi? Would that be alright? Be a little weird, but we're going to go to the next slide right away. I want everybody to have a look at this so we can see that. Can you make that picture out okay? So the top picture is a group of homeless youth. That bottom picture is a megachurch. The caption reads, "When is this up top better than this?" I was only 15 years old when I left home and wound up in the streets. And that first few months were lonely. And I don't mean the kind of lonely you feel when you got nothing to do on a Saturday night and everybody else seems to have movies to go to and people to be with. I mean a deep, deep loneliness, believing truly that I had no one anywhere that cared anything about me. Like everybody else, I wanted relationship. I wanted to be cared about. I wanted to know that somebody loved me without conditions. Truly loved me. We all need it. I remember one day I was sitting in, it was a hotel ballroom actually. It was an Alcoholics Anonymous conference, and me and a bunch of other street youth were there hanging out, when a fellow that I knew from the street came in. His name was Pat. You got to picture this guy. He's a downtown, very urban setting. And this dude was as redneck as they get. Everybody called him Red. Not because he was a redneck, Like he's like a pole. He was almost two-dimensional. He was so skinny. And he had this great big poof of fire-engine red hair. Like, he just looked like a wild man. Anyway, so Pat came in. I remember sitting there, and he comes up to the table, and he says, can you come with me? I have somebody I need to introduce you to. I go, okay. So I got up, and I went with him, and we went to the hotel washroom, which was kind of like what you would picture in a palace. Like, it was stunning. Marble floors, marble counters, the beautiful chandelier-type lights on the walls. And I walk in, and standing there in the middle of the room is this neo-Nazi skinhead, full garb, Pat, my redneck friend, and me with all my leather and chains and rings and all that stuff, rocker guy with hair down here. Okay. And so I was very cautious walking into that space, because anytime you got a neo-Nazi skinhead, a redneck, and a rocker in the same room, it's like the perfect storm, you know what I'm saying? Or the punchline for a really bad joke. And I'm standing there and I'm looking at this guy, and Pat introduces his friend Ron, the skinhead. And I will never, ever forget that day, because that day changed my life. These two guys became so close to me that brother didn't quite capture it. You know what I'm saying? They showed me loyalty I had never known in my life. They stood by me when no one else would. They were always there for me. They always looked out for me, protected me, provided for me, cried with me, stood with me, and on occasion fought alongside me. The thing is that long before I ever went up the street, long before I ever got introduced to these two guys, I was introduced to the church. But it was in these two fellows that I met in that washroom that day that for the first time in my life, I knew anything that actually resembled unity or fellowship, loyalty, oneness. And I get that what I'm saying right now is a little heavy. This is, I took a chance starting off with something so heavy. But we've been talking for about 5 weeks now, we've been talking about living love, which, if you really want to boil it down into just plain language, is the whole point of you and me. It's the whole point of the church, is to live the love of God. It's to live it, to demonstrate it to other people, to live it in this way, and to live it this way, and to live it this way in ourselves. This is not just a new facility. This is not just a new community that we're in. This is a whole new season for this church. It's a whole new season of life for you and for me. This is a kind of a starting over point. I don't know if you get this, but I've been just like pinging on this one point for the last couple of weeks. This is not just even a reset. We have stepped through a doorway into a whole new life. This is extremely exciting being here. This is a bigger opportunity than I think maybe many of us recognize. You see, because it's kind of like starting over, we get to totally reestablish the foundations of our church family the right way. We get to decide how we're going to be in this new season of life. Come on, that's exciting. So everybody's like, it's hard, right? Because when people are thinking, they make an angry face. I don't know, do you know that? When people are thinking hard, they start making, right? And I'm up here and I'm going, man, this is gold. And I'm looking out and I'm thinking, I'm going to get lynched. Look around for just a second. I mean, just literally, look around the room. Look at the people that are here with. There are no cliques, or clique, depending on where you come from. There are no invisible walls. There's only one family sitting together, growing together, learning together, living together, one. And we get to decide right here even, right now, in this moment, how we're going to be the church. That's awesome. Isn't that awesome? Because I'll tell you, I've been a part of a lot of bodies that didn't really want to be the church. Like they love the show. Right? And don't get me wrong, I love being here. We got an incredible worship team for a church our size. We are like we've been richly blessed, worship team members, where all of you are. You're all kind of scattered around right now, but we are richly blessed here because we have such incredible talent. But it's not about the show. This moment is huge for us. It's gigantic. I don't know if you can see how big it is, but trust me, it is huge. We are getting a second chance to do things right, to do things better, to be better, right? You'll do it on January 1st. Why not now? Should be a poster. Just put that together. Jesus was very plain about what he taught. He was very clear about this point. I'm going to put a scripture up. I'd like us to all read this together if we can. A new command I give you. Come on, everybody with me. A new command I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. That's powerful. This is how they will all know. All the people of the world. This is how they'll know. How? Love. My love? No. His. Live his love. Do it his way. Love one another. You see, we are to live a higher standard of compassion. We are meant to demonstrate sort of a greater level of loving relationship. We may not start out there, but we're meant to get there. To be fair about it, Metro's pretty good at this. But pretty good isn't what we're called to, is it? But it's not. I'm just being real. Pretty good is not what we're called to. We are called to be better. We are called to step up. And when we get good at that, to step it up. And when we get good at that, to step it up. If we don't ever get anything else in all of our life of faith in Jesus, I pray that we get this. I pray that we become great at loving one another. Great at it, so that everybody knows it. That, oh, yeah, that Metro church, that church down there, down the hill, or over there on the other side of the community, that church, yeah, I know that. Oh, man, you should go check that out. Because when you walk in there, you won't believe it. Because you can just feel it in the room. Right? You can just feel it. And just to be clear, can already kind of feel it. But we can step it up, can't we? Right? See, a lot of heads going, yeah, actually, now that I think about it. I pray that our fellowship here with our church family here at Metro be known far and wide as the church that really loves people. But what we all have to get is that we can't do that, love other people, unless we can do this. Right? Right? It starts here, and then we can love out. It's easier to love in a safe place, harder to get out into the game. You know what I'm saying? It all starts here, and it starts with allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with each other. Yeah, I just said that word, and I know a lot of people don't like that word vulnerable. Right? In his book, Four Loves, C.S. Lewis wrote this. He says, to love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything, and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully round with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. To love is to be vulnerable. Can you be vulnerable? Now I ask that question because I know how hard it has been in my life to be vulnerable with people. Right? Because we get hurt, what do? We put our shield up, right? Whether it's invisible or actual shield. We tend to put up walls, we tend to put up barriers, we tend to wait until we feel like it's safe before we let things go. And to be vulnerable first, that takes a lot of courage. Are you willing to to take a risk for God and open your heart to maybe a brother and sister here, to this church family, or to the community around us? If nothing else, then just to discover the wonder and mysteries that might await you in those relationships. Are you willing? Because this is just the beginning. This is a brand new starting point for this church. And God has much bigger plans for all of us. When I met Tracy, got this little, oh, you sort of see us. Yeah, we used to be kids. She still is. I got that freshman 45. When Tracy and I met, I was done with women. I mean, done. I had had enough. I had been a little close to the flame too many times, and I was kind of in it. As far as I was concerned, enough was enough. I was not interested in a relationship. I was not looking for dating or whatever. We met under different circumstances. In fact, she was on a date with a friend of mine when I met her. He's no good. Just saying, right? So when things started to get a little more serious, when our relationship began to change, it started getting really scary for me. Because I had been hurt. Turns out so had she. We'd been burnt in relationship. And we were frightened of that prospect. When I began to open up and make myself vulnerable to her, I was placing myself at great risk, again, of getting hurt. And I knew it. But something really amazing happened. Instead, as I began to open up and make myself vulnerable to her, she began to open up and make herself vulnerable to me. And today, Tracy is the single greatest relationship I have on this planet with any other human being. And it all began with being vulnerable. I took the risk. It wasn't strength that broke down the barriers in the relationship, it was vulnerability. It wasn't cunning that brought us closer together, it was vulnerability. It wasn't doing everything right, because believe me, I screwed up a lot. It wasn't doing everything right in the relationship that solidified or strengthened that relationship, it was vulnerability. I encourage you this morning, if nothing else, to give this a try. Here, with us. Remembering that we too also have a responsibility to care for and protect the vulnerability that others show us as well. Right? We need to honor that. When someone opens up and is vulnerable with us, we need to honor that. Be vulnerable. And honor the vulnerability of others, and God will make this church a church that really, really loves people. Live a life of love. Or living a life of love begins with being vulnerable. So be vulnerable here, so that you can learn to be vulnerable out there. Amen? Choose today how you want to be the church. Another thing we can do better to be the church is be a fellowship with each other. So this fellowship word is a little bit funny. I want to tell you what N.T. Wright wrote. He said the church exists primarily for two closely correlated purposes. To worship God and to work for His kingdom in the world. The church also exists for a third purpose, which serves the other two. To encourage one another, to build one another in faith, to pray with one another, to learn from one another, and teach one another, and to set one another examples to follow, challenges to take up, and urgent tasks to perform. This is all a part of what is loosely known as fellowship. So where relationship is having something in common with somebody, having a connection, fellowship is having a relationship with someone and a common purpose together. We have a common purpose in Jesus Christ. He's brought us into a better life for a reason. Our fellowship exists to increase and empower each other for our common goal and purpose in the kingdom of God. In our fellowship, our unity, our oneness, our relationships exist to build each other up and keep each other strong. Our fellowship exists to be kind of a catalyst for the work of the kingdom. The enemy's never taken time off. He's always trying to wear us down. We got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of stuff we got to enter into. There's a lot of new relationships we got to get in on. And we're going to need each other for that. We're going to need to encourage one another and hold each other up sometimes. Sometimes we need to walk with each other through stuff because, man, we all have stuff, don't we? We're talking about being really great at one thing that everybody is after. Everyone. It's the one thing that drives each of us individually and motivates us collectively. We're talking about relationship so strong that nothing can stand against us. It's what everyone everywhere, from the wildest of party animal to the quietest of introverts, desires. Unbreakable relationship. Unconditional love. We were designed for it. We were made in the very image of God, who in His very nature of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is relationship. That's who He is. In fact, He is perfect relationship. And perfect relationship sounds like a really big deal, too big, in fact, to be real. But we have to understand, we're not talking about never making a mistake, or never offending someone in our lives, or never doing something wrong. What we're talking about is always having the right attitude towards one another when we drop the ball, when we stumble and fall. Right? Do you mess up? Because I mess up. I'm not good at being perfect. Right? I do my very, very best. But I mess it up all the time. What I try to do is I try to have the right attitude for when people mess it up with me, so that, right, graciousness and love can abound. I'm going to be transparent with you for a moment. I was really, really hard on the pastor that I worked for in my first full-time ministry position. I got a picture of him. That's Ian and Janice. Done. It's a wonderful man. I was really hard on this guy. He is a quiet, methodical, extremely introverted, and highly gifted teacher. I was a wild, unbroken, ultra-extroverted, apostolic lunatic. Right? As a leader, he needed to carefully plan everything we did, all the details, and make sure everything was in order. Wired the way I was, I needed to get her done immediately. I pushed him so hard. When I saw something that needed to be done, and I mean legit, it needed to happen in the church, something that we needed to enter into, I obsessed over it. I hounded him about it. I was relentless. I had no patience for the time it took him to process change. And he had no capacity to enter into any of the ideas that must have seemed so wild and reckless at the time. He did a lot of things wrong in that ministry assignment. A lot. We came to a header at one point in his office. I mean, our horns were locked on some issue where I don't even remember what it was we were arguing about at the time, but we were just locked, and he was not going to bend. And I was going full tilt. I was pressing as hard as I could. And in that moment, while we were locked together, both of us so incredibly frustrated with the other, it clicked. And I realized, either I submit to his authority right now for the sake of our relationship, or I would hurt the church, I would break our friendship, I would wreck the relationship, and I would never grow into what God intended me to grow into. I knew it. And let me tell you, the size of that marble of pride that was in my throat that I had to swallow in that moment was difficult. Because as far as I was concerned, I was right. Right? We get moments like that. I'm right. I know I'm right. So I need to push it. And in that moment I realized it was more important. Now, the truth is, he was probably right. I'm being real. I know it comes off as funny, but I'm being sincere. Because often I have found, whenever I'm like, no, I'm right, I find out later that I was not. I was wrong. Right? I broke. I bawled for about half an hour. It took so much effort to swallow that ball of pride that was in my throat. But in putting the fellowship first, my relationship with Him is unbreakable today. Nothing can shake it. Nothing. I adore this man more than most in this world. We may live far from each other, but we are truly united in our purpose. It was difficult to go through, but I grew so much in that one moment of getting out of God's way. I tell you this story because there's an awful lot that we have to do in the kingdom of God that is really, really hard to do. Not because you're scaling a mountain, but because you have to get out of your own way. And that's harder than I think we like to think it is. You do not have to be perfect to have perfect relationship. You just have to be willing to let go of pride from time to time. You just have to be willing to start putting others ahead of yourself. It isn't always easy, but it is always, always good. Our fellowship is centered on that perfect relationship. It's supposed to be, can be, will be. We all want it. We all chase after it to one degree or another. We all hope and dream and sometimes go out of our way to have it, but do we do it well right now? We can. We absolutely can. We can be great at this. I mean, we can be great at us. Don't you think so? We can be great at us. We really can. In fact, we do it pretty good right now. But again, we're not called to pretty good. Are you willing to be vulnerable for the sake of relationship, for the sake of fellowship? Are you willing to take a chance on a brother or sister for God? Are you willing to set aside your own ambition or pride or habits or whatever else it might be that's getting in the way and start chasing after Him? I mean, really chasing after Him? Because if we go after Him, then we've got everything we need. If we want to be the church and live a life of love, we need to be the church. If we want to be the church, I know this is profound, right? If you want to be the church, we really got to be the church. Do you know what makes us different? I mean, the church, you know what makes us different than, say, the 4-H club or some other organization like it? Him. He's what makes it different. It's not about having common interests. Right? I'm sure I like all kinds of stuff that you don't. Right? That's okay. It's not a club. Right? We're not doing crafts, although we could. Crafts would be fun. It's not about being the same, it's about being like Him. A.W. Tozer wrote a really great illustration about this. I love this. And hear this. Has it ever occurred to you that 100 pianos, all tuned to the same fork, are automatically tuned to each other? They are of one accord, not by being tuned to each other, but to another standard to which each one must individually bow. So 100 worshippers meeting together, each one looking away to Christ, are in heart nearer to each other than they ever could possibly be were they to become unity conscious and turn their eyes away from God and strive for closer fellowship. Isn't that great? It is so true about us and the life that we're to live as the church. That definitively is what the church should look like. Being the church is actually being the church. It's walking in what God has intended for it. It is to love others, to show loyalty to each other, to stand by each other, to always be there for one another, to always look out for each other, to protect one another, provide for one another. It means we cry together sometimes. It means we stand with one another, and sometimes we need to fight alongside one another. Being the church is, as we talked about a few weeks ago, when Paul wrote Ephesians 5:1 and 2, that we should be imitators of God. Therefore, as dearly loved children, and live a life of love. Don't just agree with it. Don't just say you like it. Don't just nod your head and say, hey man, that's awesome. Yeah, go home and talk about it a little bit. Live it. Live love. Express it outwardly. Live that life of love just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. Vulnerability is a choice. The last picture, I think. Yeah, there we go. Vulnerability is a choice. Fellowship is a choice. Being the church, living this, it's a choice. That's it. It's a choice. It's a decision we can make. You can walk in it or not. So it's entirely up to you guys. It's up to me to do it in my life. What an incredible God. Lays out a perfect plan and then says, but pick what you want. We can choose to invest in each other or not. We can choose to make a difference, or we can choose to sit around wondering why nothing ever changes. We get to choose. You get to choose. Come on, this is awesome. I love this stuff. Everybody's thinking, they must be, because after that, everybody's angry at me for something I did. God has given us to each other for a reason. This was never supposed to be just something we do Sunday mornings. This was supposed to be, has always been, and continues to be about who we are all the time. All the time. It's about taking baby steps in our everyday life toward something better. Can we do that? Can we take baby steps? Just little baby steps towards something better? Because I don't care how small the step is. If you're always taking those baby steps, you're moving closer to glory. You're moving closer to his plan for your life. Keep moving forward. Keep taking those little steps. It doesn't take much. You don't have to take leaps and bounds. You don't have to compare yourself to anybody else and say, well, I'm not there yet. No, you're not. That's okay. Man, there are so many people in my life that I look at and I go, I'm not there. There are people in this church who have parts of their lives that I look at and go, man, I'm not there yet. That's the truth. But I can get there. I just need to take baby steps. I just need to keep taking those little steps forward. Can we do that, church? Can we take baby steps together towards something better? It will not always be easy. And in fact, if we're really going to grow at all, it has to be challenging sometimes. We don't grow when things are easy. We grow through the hard stuff, don't we? So it's going to be hard sometimes. But together we can do that. I mean, together, link arms, man. I can't get myself over a brick wall, but if I got Kyle helping me, I'm pretty sure we could get this girth over, right? I'm just saying, that's what life is. I'm amazed at how far we have come as a church over the last year, and I am incredibly excited to see where God's going to take us over the next year, and I hope you are too. So as I call the worship team up, I'm going to close. I'm going to get them to do it quietly because I want to read you two quotes. Okay, I got two great quotes that I'm going to leave you with to think about. C.S. Lewis, who may quite possibly be the smartest man who ever lived, wrote this. In friendship, we think we have chosen our peers. In reality, just a few years difference in dates of our births, a few more miles between certain houses, the choice of one university instead of another, the accident of a topic being raised or not raised at a first meeting, any of these chances might have kept us apart. But for a Christian, there are, strictly speaking, no chances. A secret master of ceremonies has been at work. Christ, who said to the disciples, "You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you," can truly say to every group of Christian friends, "You have not chosen one another, but I have chosen you for one another." The friendship is not a reward for our discriminating and good taste in finding one another out. It is the instrument by which God reveals to each of us the beauties of the others. And the last quote is this. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you.